They say that if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. Well, Australian farmers have been using farming techniques imported from the other side of the world for almost a century now. Wherever we have farmed in this land, the outcome has been the same. Machinery graveyards such as this, wasting soils, withering crops, and worried farmers. And yet conventional wisdom still persists. Take the term conventional tillage, for instance. It's called conventional because it's the way most of us have farmed. The crows love it, eating all the worms and goodies as soon as they're exposed. But just as crows hover over dead animals, they may well be hovering over an extinct farming industry unless we make some dramatic changes. But let's have a look at the way Mother Nature does it. After all, she writes the rules around here, not our forebears in Mother England or North America, and certainly not farm machinery companies on the other side of the world either. This is a stand of virgin, unimproved scrub, and down here at the base is a layer of fertile mulch, leaf matter that is constantly topped up by the trees and the grass. This mulch mat does a great job of replenishing the soil nutrients and organic matter naturally. It also provides a perfect seedbed for the young trees and grass. Even a hot, dry wind can't get at these seedlings in here, and all of the plants are given a great start. Now contrast that with the way of conventional tillage, burning or bashing down the crop residue and exposing many of the soil organisms. And it's this worldview that has led to so much of the conventional wisdom, the way we farm, even right down to the row spacing and seed placement technique, for instance. So just why did we start out with 6 to 7 inch row spacing on old conventional style combines? We're told it was to afford a finer seed bed and give better weed control, and it sure does, but at what cost? On these old combines, the tines were usually mounted on floats, 4 cultivating and 4 planting tines per float. They were generally only used on good planting rain, and a set of harrows followed behind to smooth things off. The notion of leaving all that important crop residue to top up soil organic matter, just like over there in the scrub, was not an option. Today, there is a heavy realisation, though, that stubble retention is fundamentally essential if a sustainable approach is to be adopted. Faced with the inability of these machines to handle trash, many innovative farmers themselves began to modify scarifiers and chisel ploughs in order to gain trash flow. Recent trial work has proven, however, that even wider row spacing, as wide as 16 inch, will not reduce winter crop yields. At Multi-Farming Systems, we have proven time and again that the ideal row spacing is in fact 13 1/3 inches, even across our widest diversity of soil types in Australia. But row spacing is only half the story. Those modified scarifiers and chisel ploughs we spoke about earlier usually ended up with some variation of a 2 inch wide spear tip moved through the ground at around 30 degrees. But in so doing, it violently boiled the soil up and created a seedbed, but again, at what cost? Aside from losing too much soil moisture, the rearmost row of tines threw soil into the adjacent rows planted by the front planting tines. Now the seed had to struggle even more to emerge, and we all know how important a good emergence is.
Yeah, it was sown with about 30 pound of barley for the acre. And yeah, just a great germination.
You got your surface roots down too?
Yeah, they're away, aren't they?
How much rain have you had on it since it germinated?
40 points.
That all?
Yeah.
Boy, you got 10 stools on that plant already.
Yeah.
And the roots are going down.
Yeah.
And it's virgin ground.
Yeah.
No ploughing.
No,
no diesel.
never touched it. No, it was so cheap, David. Like we had the seed, didn't have to buy the seed. And the tractor was running along sort of around about 50 litres to the hour, so an STX 440.
Yeah.
And like the cost of the fuel and a bit of wages was next to nothing, and we've got a potentially huge drought-proving paddock of feed.
Well, that's a healthy plant though. It's not sticking straight up like pineapples or anything.
No,
it's sterling.
It's good.
Good colour. Roots are well growing.
Oh, it's establishing quick, isn't it? And you can see, David,
It is.
that's the seed there.
Yeah.
Well, can you see that, David? That's the depth we planted it.
Yeah.
about a matchbox.
Yeah, that's right, or even less.
Yeah, less. And it flew out of the ground,
Yeah.
got going, got the secondary roots to rob the soil of all the nutriments and jam into this.
Yeah, there's the seed.
Yes, by adopting 13 and a third inch row spacings, optimum sowing speeds of that 6.9 kilometres an hour, or even more, can be reached without throwing soil onto the adjoining rows.
This ground was laser levelled just recently, 3 months ago, and you can see the hard pan on it as the rain created a sort of a top on it. And it was very difficult to actually go very fast in this when we were seeding. We had to go very slowly so we actually didn't toss the ground out and cover the next row. So you can see here, we went along at about 4.8 kilometres an hour, 300 psi or 250 to 300 psi on the press wheels, slow enough so that the ground wasn't tossed out into the next row, and we got a nice even seed bed just under the surface in the moisture.
Yes, this row spacing leaves a nice little depression to water harvest available rainfall into right over the seed, and at the same time any weeds that may happen to survive up on the hills are deprived of moisture. That's how you turn a very ordinary 50 points into a useful inch or two. Even more importantly, wider row spacing means less tines per foot of machine. That's obviously an incredible reduction in capital costs. Wider row spacings also mean the same acres covered and with less horsepower, or alternatively, more acres covered with the same horsepower. With the average age of Australian farmers getting higher, it's interesting to note that bigger or wider machines may also have a very positive impact on their lifestyle and long-term decisions.
I believe with this new system, mentally I can handle planting a lot of wheat without too much stress and probably last another 7 or 8 years. And before, where we had 16 or 18 men round sowing time, that was very stressful for me.
Another 7 or 8 years doing what he loves and is good at. Not bad, eh? Now, these wider row spacings are only part of the solution. The other part is this, a spear tip designed around a 15-degree soil entry angle. As this tine moves through the soil at those higher ground speeds, it does not violently boil the soil up like those 30-degree entry angles. This tip acts more like a submarine travelling below the surface. Yes, because of its profile and trajectory, it churns up just the smallest pocket of soil around the seed placement area itself, and therefore it minimises the loss of soil moisture to the atmosphere. It's worth noting at this point that the move to disc openers is a recognition of this fact. But disc openers leave the ground flat and afford little opportunity for rainfall to penetrate. Water just flows away. They simply can't moisture seek to maximise the planting window, and no one would dispute that they are very costly to maintain.
I saw this in the Gilgandra Museum here. This is made in the United States by Deering, and 1908. It's nearly 100 years ago. This came to the Gilgandra area in New South Wales, and it's got a disc opener drill. It's a single disc on an angle, and it's got very similar to the modern disc openers, only on a lighter scale. And it's even got the pieces of chain here to drag behind in the furrow to rattle a bit of soil into the furrow. They even thought all that up in 1908.
Now back to our 15-degree angled winged spear tip. Back in 1985, David Trevelyan, the designer, was faced with the uncertain moisture conditions of central inland Queensland, and Multi-Farming Systems set about developing a planting machine that was reliable and precise over the widest range of soil types and moisture conditions. The result was the Multiplanter, and what a result! An innovative system of 2-inch diameter hydraulic rams fitted on each tine, pressurised from fluid held within the centre frame of the machine. As soil conditions vary, the operator simply increases and decreases the pressure to control sowing depth. The true genius of this idea is that the press wheel is hinged off the centre of the tine, and can be adjusted to allow the pressure from the ram to be put on either the point of the tine or the press wheel as required. Yes, the press wheel is parallelogram controlled so that the planting depth is maintained regardless of the undulating ground it may traverse. Not like in the conventional tine machines where the tine is slaved to the frame and must follow the machine rather than the ground. Think about this for a minute. The Multiplanter delivers exact seed depth control across a range of soil types and planting conditions, even matched to historical harvest yield data, if you like. Now that's true prescription farming. You see, when you combine this unique tine and press wheel system for precise seed placement and depth, a 15-degree tip angle to minimise soil disturbance and moisture loss, and 13 1/3 inch row spacing to minimise seed burying and maximise moisture incorporation and machinery capitalisation, you surely do have the secrets of your farming future. In one comprehensive trial by Dr. Paul Blackwell of the Western Australian Department of Agriculture at Moroa, the results truly authenticate all that we've said here. Dr. Blackwell took what could be termed the conventional machines, such as a farmer's 40-foot chisel plough and prickle chain, and an agro plough demonstration unit, his very own definitive planter, which he incidentally used as the benchmark, then he put them all up against an 8-foot multiplanter, and the results came as a complete surprise to him, even to us. An incredible 30% increase in yield over and above what would be expected using conventional techniques. Techniques that Western Australian farmers are actually using and losing with. Now do you understand why David and the multi-farming team approach this whole thing with such an evangelistic fervour? That increase in profitability would make the difference between the death of lifelong, even multi-generation dreams, and an Australian farming industry that not only will survive, but also even thrive. So come on then, let's take a close look at just what the multi-farming system machinery consists of and just how they work.